A lot of offseason buzz to hit on today's Philadelphia 76ers. Now I'm Chase Sr., and coming up here on the show, should the Sixers trade for Michael Porter Jr. after the Nuggets lost in Game 7, second round to the Minnesota Timberwolves? Also, should the Sixers address a need in free agency and sign Caleb Martin? First, make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you can stay informed on all of the buzz, rumors, pertaining to the Philadelphia 76ers during this massive offseason, but also if you want free Sixers content and analysis year-round, we have you covered here on the show. We're closing in on 16,000 subscribers, a little less than 700 people away from that milestone. Lock us in today. You will not regret it. Let's begin with some rumors around Michael Porter Jr. being a trade target for Philadelphia. Had a poor showing against Minnesota in the second round. Has really become kind of a hot and cold player, but certainly helped them win an NBA championship last year for the first time in franchise history. And now could he be on his way out from that Denver Nuggets roster as the Nuggets look to kind of retool a little bit because they look to be a player or two short against Minnesota. The Nuggets don't have many avenues here to improve their roster this offseason, paying a lot of money to Nikola Jokic, paying a lot of money to Jamal Murray, and Michael Porter Jr. wasn't great in the NBA Finals last year and then struggled in the second round against the T-Wolves this year. He would kind of, for Philadelphia, fulfill that Tobias Harris role and a very similar type of fit to Tobias Harris. That's why I don't really like it all that much if Philadelphia were to explore this avenue. But against Minnesota, the numbers were not good for MPJ. 35 minutes per night, 10.7 points per game, 5.7 rebounds per game, and the shooting numbers were terrible. 37% from the floor, 32.5% from three-point range, and there's a saying, the ball stops with Michael Porter Jr. because if he gets the rock, he's going to let it fly. Oftentimes, he's not making that extra pass. He wants an opportunity to find twine and put the biscuit in the basket. He's also an expensive player. We're right in the territory here of what Tobias Harris cost Philadelphia. At least Tobias Harris, a durable player with no injury concerns. MPJ, he slid in the 2018 draft. That's when Philadelphia drafted Mikal Bridges, by the way, and then traded him away for Zaire Smith. Jalen Brunson went in the second round that year. Chip and I were looking at that draft class, a really good draft class, where DeAndre Ayton went number one, and you had Marvin Bagley going before Luka Doncic, and Michael Porter Jr. has ended up being a good player who has given the Nuggets really good value for where they drafted him, but do they like the value now? $35 million next year. Denver can use that contract in trades, and the Sixers, as we know, they have money to be able to absorb a contract like that. They can sign and trade players since Denver will be below the first apron. Last 4 years for MPJ. The numbers a lot better in the last 2 years than what he did in that second round series against the T-Wolves. Is he struggling to find a role? And if he struggles to find a role as a number three, next to the Joker and next to Jamal Murray, who's to tell me and tell us that he could fit better alongside Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid? Now, this past year, 80 games played. That's good, as he's been healthy the last 2 years after playing just 9 games in 2021, 2022. 16.8 points per game this past year, 7 rebounds, 48.5% from the floor, 40% from three. You'll certainly take that. Again, very Tobias Harris-like as far as the production. And then 2 years ago, en route to the title, numbers a little bit better. 17 points per game, 48.7% from the floor, and 41.5% from three-point range. Here is a trade idea that we did put together, though, where the Sixers get MPJ from the Nuggets, and then the Nuggets receive Buddy Hield and DeAnthony Melton, who might be out of the Sixers' price range, but of course, Buddy Hield and DeAnthony Melton combined might not reach the $36 million that MPJ is due. And do those two players fit better And does it make more sense to have those two players alongside Murray and Jokic, because Jokic can find Buddy Hield to shoot three, and then De'Anthony Melton, a very good two-way player. Chip, let's welcome you onto the show here. Your thoughts on MPJ, that trade, and this entire scenario?
I am a fan of MPJ as a player. Again, a little more up and down than you'd probably like. You know, that series against the Lakers, right before they lost to the Timberwolves, he was spectacular, and he's had series where he's been spectacular, and if he's hot, he is hot. Deadly three-point shooter. He's basically 7 feet tall, about 6'10", so when he puts up a three, you can't contest him, right? And you said it, he's going to shoot the ball when he gets the ball, which is a big difference from Tobias. Tobias doesn't want to shoot it. Michael Porter Jr., you can't get him to stop shooting the ball, right?
Yeah.
As a third option, I don't hate it. I feel like he's more of a, I don't want to call him a role player, right? Because he's better than your standard role player. But, you know, he's not a third option like a Mikal Bridges would be, right? Where you're going to give him the rock and have him go to work. You know, I think Michael Porter Jr. works best. He works best as a spot-up three-point shooter who can get downhill with that size and some athleticism. Hopefully his back, you know, long-term is not a concern, because that's what caused him to drop in the draft those years ago. I like the fit. Now, if Denver is looking to upgrade the roster, right, they really can't, because they're out of money and they have these big salaries. You know, they're not going to move Jokic, not going to move Murray. Aaron Gordon's on a pretty good deal, about $22 million. I don't see why they'd move him. So they look at this $35 million of Michael Porter Jr. They say, okay, you know, our depth was really an issue. We have Christian Brown, we have Peyton Watson, who are younger guys sort of on the wing. How do we fill out this rotation with better players who can maybe be a little more consistent than Michael Porter? Right. Maybe they like the idea of the shooting of Buddy Hield, the two-way ability of Melton. I think Melton and Jamal Murray could be a decent fit in the backcourt together, kind of similar to Maxey and Melton. So maybe they look at that, say, okay, here's a couple guys. Maybe they want Paul Reed as well in a deal like that, because they were running, what, DeAndre Jordan out there as their backup center this year? We're in 2024. Come on. Yeah. So we'll see if they do decide to move on. If that's all it costs, you know, it's a lot of money to pay him, $35 million. I think I would do the deal, though.
All right. Now, we're going to leave you up to the task of deciding whether or not you would make this trade here, where the Sixers get Michael Porter Jr., Nuggets get Buddy Hield and De'Anthony Melton. Would you do it? Would you accept it? A for accept, D for decline. Share your thoughts with us down below in the comment section right now. Coming up here in just a few moments, should the Sixers sign Caleb Martin, who obviously is a part of that Heat culture with Miami? We're going to dive into that. First, today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. You pick two or more players, you choose more or less on their projected stats, and you can win up to 25 times your money. Head to prizepicks.com/CLNS for a $100 deposit match. Our selections that we like for game one between the Pacers and the Celtics. By the way, Boston, 10.5-point favorites for game one. That line opened up at 13.5. That tells me the odds makers are just like, you know what? Indiana, coming off that Game 7 victory, they're going to have a clunker. With Prize Picks here, daily fantasy sports made easy. And I like our selections here for Game 1. Tyrese Halliburton, more than 19 points. Jason Tatum, less than 29.5. He's been up and down, Jekyll and Hyde, inconsistent throughout the playoffs. And then TJ McConnell, more than 17.5 points, rebounds, and assists. A fan favorite for Philadelphia in the process era. Man, he's become a dog. Win big money. Withdraw your winnings within the Prize Picks app. Pick more, pick less. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Next, Bleacher Report listing Caleb Martin as an ideal free agent fit for Philadelphia. Here's what Bleacher Report had to say about Martin going to Philadelphia. He's an ideal complement to a larger ecosystem. His offensive efficiency dipped last year, 53.1 true shooting percentage. But by and large, he can knock down standstill trays, attack downhill, keep the rock moving, and ping around the half court without the ball. His defense, meanwhile, has degrees of ferocity. He maneuvers through traffic swiftly, contests shots from all angles, delivers timely and effective double teams, and uses a fluid lateral gait to keep pace with downhill attackers. Two-way compliments are an important part of any contending roster. The Sixers need them, especially if they can't convince Nicholas Batum to postpone retirement, and definitely if DeAnthony Melton leaves in free agency or his back issues linger. Now, when you talk about Caleb Martin here, the offense isn't always there. He's inconsistent. But last year against the Celtics in the playoffs, he was on fire. It's so funny because when you look at him, he doesn't move fast, but he's tricky with how he moves in the lane. And he's so good at those Euro steps where he's able to kind of slide through the lane swiftly and smoothly. Is a good defender, though, who can get through switches and can guard a couple of different positions. The crazy run that he went on in the playoffs last year during that Heat Finals run, it was tremendous. And in the 2022-2023 playoffs in totality, 12.7 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, and the shooting numbers were excellent. 52.9% from the field and 42.3% from three. That's what he's capable of. Now, the true shooting numbers did dip in 2023-2024. That's probably and most likely the player that he most likely is for the long haul, but a player who has played in big-time games, can be a starter, can come in off the bench, has positional versatility, two-way ability as well. Chip, would you like to make this move if you're in the shoes of Daryl Morey?
Yeah, look, he's probably going to be rather affordable, making about $7-8 million this past year. So he's going to be looking for a raise, most likely. Maybe around that $10-12 million range. You know, if you can get him at that about 10-ish million, you know, he could be a player that could start for you, could come off the bench. I mean, like you said, we saw him with the Heat. I mean, he was off the dribble. He was knocking down threes. Even this past postseason, you know, he went out pretty early, but he still shot over 40% from three in their postseason games this season. So kind of a player that we've seen be able to step up his game in the postseason. He's obviously battle-tested, been to the finals, knows what it takes, and, you know, been in that Heat culture. So we know he's a dog. I think he'd be a great fit, especially, you know, you have all these wings that you might not be able to bring them all back. Kelly Oubre, Nick Batum, Covington's going to be gone. Like, you're totally reshaping this roster. And if you need guys that are affordable and, you know, Batum does retire or you have these other guys that aren't going to be coming back, yeah, I'd make a call, see if he's willing to take, you know, $10 million for a couple of years.
Yeah, and I like how he's got that experience with Miami. You need to continue to build that winning culture with Philadelphia, which they haven't had. And look at the teams left in the playoffs, like Mavs, good culture. Timberwolves, good culture. Celtics, good culture. Indiana Pacers, good culture. Nick Nurse, we saw the beginning parts of that, trying to build that. This could help further that. And I would imagine he'd be a pretty affordable asset too. Should the 76ers sign Caleb Martin? We leave you with that. S for sign, P for pass. Don't forget to subscribe to us here on Philadelphia 76ers Now. Thank you so much for your support this offseason. The offseason for us, as far as our content, has gotten off to a bang because the view numbers have been awesome. Let's continue to keep it moving.